with all of the activity that has happened and that will continue to happen with respect to tariff policy, it's important to keep a couple guideposts in mind. And this requires you to really listen to what President Trump himself and what his team are saying. But the first one is that the Trump administration is committed to structural economic change for the United States and for the role of the US economy in the global marketplace. Now, that combines trade policy and the Trump administration view on the need to drive down the trade deficit towards trade surplus, and that connects to capital accounts and monetary policy as well. Separate from that, when it comes to the tariff policy, there is a large emotional element and dramatic element that applies also. When you cut through that noise, what you will find is some of that tariff policy will be guided by sectoral industrial policy perspectives. I think that very much applies to, for example, the auto tariffs, but also a desire to unleash a lot of trade negotiations. This is a president and an administration that loves its deals. And so you should also expect that part of the logic for these tariff actions is to motivate trading partners to come to the table to negotiate various types of deals, the parameters of which are yet to be determined. So it is important to keep in mind that there are multiple goals that are being pursued by this administration in the midst of all of the tariff activity. I'd say that one other element to keep in mind is the calendar. We know that there is statutorily required of the administration action on legacy semiconductor chips that will almost certainly involve tariff action. That was an investigation that was actually started by the Biden administration right before Christmas 2024, which means that under the statute, Section 301, the Trump administration has until right before Christmas 2025 to come out with its decision about what it wants to do on legacy semiconductors. Separate from that, something else that is really important to keep in mind is that between now and July 1st, 2026, the United States, Canada, and Mexico are obligated under the terms of the new NAFTA, what's called the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, to either affirm or negate each country's commitment to stay in the trade agreement. There will be a review of the USMCA that must take place between now and July 1st of next year. In my view, a number of the early tariff actions that we've seen that involve Canada and Mexico will be setting the table for the negotiating dynamics for that review between the three governments. And those would be the 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada that were announced early on, the autos tariffs, where USMCA autos trade was exempted, and potentially also another investigation that's flown a little under the radar recently, which is the lumber investigation. The Commerce Department started an investigation into lumber trade under national security auspices. Lumber trade has been a long-standing challenge and irritant in the US-Canada trade relationship. My gut instinct is that that investigation will coincide with the review of the USMCA. The willingness of the Trump administration, especially in its second term, to use trade policy, to actively use tariff policy, and the far-reaching impacts that it is having on Americans and on people around the world, is raising an awareness for everyday people that trade policy matters. And I think that the more people realize they have a stake in the US economy and the global economy, the better off we may be in the long run as people realize that because of that stake, that they have to understand what's going on, get involved, and express their opinions.